to episode 56 of the Matt O'Scale Trainz podcast. I am one of your hosts, Matt Rochford, and with me is, well, my single co-host tonight, the one and only Johnny. Johnny, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Good. I'm glad we finally fired Matt Z, right? Is that why he's gone this time? Or is he hired again? I can never tell at this point.
Actually, Matt Z is unable to join us tonight. He had to work, so duty calls for him. He did, however, put together all of the questions for us tonight, and he reviewed them, and he just made sure they were all relevant for the catalog. So big thanks to Matt C for that. All right, well, let's just go ahead and get into it. Let's talk about what we're gonna, talk about tonight, and that would be the Lionel 2023 Volume 1 catalog. We're gonna review it like we have been for the last. How long have we been doing this? For a year and a half now?
You guys have done it for at least two full years. At least multiple catalog shows. I know that for sure.
Yep, and they only get better.
I do.
Before we get going with tonight's episode here, we'll just hit some of our basic maintenance items, and then we'll move on to the show for tonight. So as always, you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, of course, that's our home base, YouTube, as well as Amazon Music. We also, of course, have the Discord server, which is now beyond 200 members, and it's quite the happening place. You know, it's just something that we've talked about a lot on the show as a community aspect, and just something that's always really great. It's a public Discord, so anyone can join it. We'll throw a link in the description of the video here. And because this is a public Discord, you will have to acknowledge that you read the rules, as this is a community server. Great group of moderators, of course, including us three hosts. And so we always make sure that everybody is treated with respect and is very safe in our community here. We have a new URL for the podcast, and that would be mnmpodcast.com. Find us there. All right, so the lastly, we'll talk about our Matt and Matt merchandise. So if you want anything with our logo on it, be it, a button, a coffee mug, a sticker, a hat, whatever, you can go to redbubble.com and you can look up Matt and Matt, and you will be able to find us there.
Before we start, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Trainz.com. If you are looking for a great deal on used and new model railroading products and want top-notch service, then please head over to Trainz.com, where they have over 120,000 products with new ones added every day. You can also sign up for their newsletter to see newly listed and newly discounted products and receive advance notice of upcoming promotions. Now, I've been using Trainz.com myself as well as my co-hosts, and we highly recommend them to our listeners.
Now, if you're like us and you're always on the lookout for your next engine, join the Trainz Rewards program to earn points on every purchase and unlock future discounts. And if you're an avid collector and want first dibs on new items, sign up for the private car membership to get early access to new listings, earn 5 points per dollar spent, and unlock great benefits like no questions asked returns.
Now, guys, don't forget that you'll need parts to keep your engines and cars operating smoothly. And to do this, Trainz has a collection of 15,000 plus parts available on their website for any item you may need. And also, if you're interested in downsizing your collection or know someone who is unfortunately leaving the hobby, Trainz also buys collections. So head over to sellmytrainz.com to get a quote. And Trainz makes it easy to sell your collection.
Now, if you do plan on buying from them, please use our affiliate link, which is www.trainz.com/MMOP. You can also use our unique one-time promo code MMOP for $10 off a single purchase on the Trainz.com website. So we won't be reviewing the catalog alone. So I'd like to introduce our guest for tonight. Our first guest, Superman has pajamas with his logo. Thanks for joining us tonight, Mr. Ryan Kunkle from Lionel.
Thank you, Matt. That's the best introduction I think I've ever had. I'll take that.
All right, and our second guest won a fist fight only using his beard. Thanks for joining us, Eric Siegel from the Eric's Trainz YouTube channel.
Hey, how's it going, Matt?
Good. Thanks for joining. And lastly, Trainz stop at crossings just so he can pass. Welcome to the podcast, Chris M. from the Chris's Trainz and Things YouTube channel.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Excited to be here tonight.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Chris. So like last time, we're going to make our way through the catalog starting on page 8. And we have some questions that the good folks on the Matt and Matt Discord server already submitted for us. They've been reviewed by our good friend host, Matt Z. Now, really quick, we are only covering the scale items tonight. The traditional and line chief will be covered in our next episode, which would be episode 57. Now, if nobody has any questions, then we can go ahead and get started.
I'm going to jump in really quickly here, Matt. For those of you who ask questions on the Discords, we appreciate everybody who contributed and that you wanted to ask these questions to Ryan. But if you don't hear your question, it's not anything personal. It's a thing where we kind of had to narrow it down for the sake of the show. And also we want to make sure the questions are pertain specifically to items in the catalog. So as much as we want to ask Ryan what's coming up next, we want to make sure we stay on topic and that we get some clarification questions out of the way. So just because you didn't hear your question, didn't mean we didn't read it. All questions are important. We just want to make sure we stay on topic for tonight.
All right, folks. Well, let's go ahead and start on page 8. Now, before we get started, if you are following us in the catalog, a couple of quick tips. I have mine open in Adobe Reader. I tend to use the 2-page view. If you click on view and then go to page display and go to 2-page view, you will get a nice, large 2-page view, kind of like you would if you were opening the catalog up. But also, when you do that, you also may notice that the pages are not correct, meaning you're seeing like page 9 and 10 instead of page 8 and 9. To fix that, you click on view, page display, and then click on show cover page in 2-page view, and that will shift everything over. And that way, when you're looking at page 8, you're also seeing page 9, or if you're on page 7, or I think it's 6 and 7, you're actually seeing the entire big boy and not just like one half of the big boy. Again, just a really quick tip. If you're using Adobe to kind of read this, it should work in some of the other PDF readers as well. But again, just for maximum viewing of the catalog, it's best to view it pretty much in the 2-page view. All right. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and start on page 8 and 9. And we are looking at, of course, the big boys are back. The Vision Line big boys are back. And I'm actually pretty excited about these. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to the floor if anyone wants to chime in on these.
I'll start off. I know that when this was announced, obviously, earlier before the catalog came out, there's been so much publicity out there about these things on the secondhand market. It only made sense to see them cataloged again. And it's really neat to see an added feature with the pop-off steam effect. That seems to be, and Ryan, you can correct me, but it seems to be something that you guys are really starting to implement a lot more, kind of mastered that code, I guess, that it seems to fit in a lot more models. So always cool when we can add more steam and smoke pouring out of these things as they go around the layout. So I'm excited to see these things in action.
Yeah, the pop-off steam it's a cool effect. And it's also nice, I think, on a locomotive like the big boy, where the whistle is so close to the smokestack, it gets kind of muted when you've got all the smoke going. Sometimes you don't really get that effect as much. So when you can put some smoke a little bit further back on the locomotive, it really stands out nicely. As long as it fits in there, it's a fun one to add. That's really visual and usually one of the more reliable ones too, because you're not trying to push smoke down like you are through the blow off or the blow down or for example, the Niagaras and the Hudsons in this catalog with the tender water scoop effect. It's just easier with the dynamics of things to have things like the pop offs. They work well and they just add a neat feature.
I was going to say that I was lucky enough to see one of these when we were visiting Lionel in December, and the pop-off valve steam effect looks really cool on this thing. So really looking forward to seeing the finished product.
Now, I do have some questions, Ryan, from the Discord server. The first one is, and probably have an answer for this, but how come the big boys don't have any dynamos?
That's a good question. I know the 4014, they relocated some dynamos on that. I'd have to go back and do some looking at the tooling that we have and see why they're not where they're supposed to be, if they're not already there.
Okay, yeah, and maybe it's a tooling issue as well. So, and then a second question on the big boys is: will the oil burning 4014 dual headlight like it does today?
That's something we can definitely look at. I don't know that we called that out in the original, but I'll make a note to check that on the art and see. We usually simulate that with just a little bit of paint, so it would not be a difficult thing to add, like we did on the 1218 for the Class A and some of the other ones. But yeah, we could do that. We could do the pile headlight on there. That shouldn't be difficult at all.
Awesome. Yeah, and just so folks know, and you, Ryan, as well, is that I know you had mentioned some tips and some other items on these engines on your Facebook video that you guys did when the catalog came out. So if some of these are duplicate questions, I do apologize. But obviously folks that watch the Facebook feed may not have, or some folks may have missed it and didn't get a chance to. So again, some of these questions may have been stuff that you answered already, but it's probably good just to go over them again for clarification purposes. All right. Anyone else on the big boys?
I was surprised that we didn't see a hot dog scheme of these after the Challenger success.
Yeah. That's been pretty popular. I got a couple questions, and maybe one of them's answered in here and I didn't see it, but on the big boys with the smoke deflectors, can those be removed?
Yes, those are magnetic, so you can take those off and on as easily as you'd like.
Cool.
Want to do that. The real one didn't wear it that long, and it gives you the best of both worlds.
Cool. And then on the superset, do you know if the superset is going to come in one big box, or is it going to be a series of boxes, or how's that going to work?
That's a good question. We're thinking probably its own pallet with a forklift attached. Everything in the set will be individually boxed. That I can say. We will have to do some testing and drop testing to make sure it all fits in a single box, and that single box can actually be practically lifted and shipped. It's a big set with a lot of weight in it.
I was thinking about that, but I was like, man, something that big has got to have a cool set box with it too.
The goal is to put it all in a single set box, and I think we can do it. We did the UP rocket booster train set, and those arrived late in December. And I think that was the biggest box I've seen up to this point, but that had about 13 cars in it altogether. So if we got all that in one box, I think we can make this one happen too. But it definitely is impressive when you just get the box. Even before you open it up, it hits you. Guys, if you're planning on sneaking this in the house when your wife's not around, good luck. This one may be a little bit hard to hide underneath the bottom of the bed or whatever, wherever you're hiding your trains. This will take up some serious real estate. But there's been a lot of buzz over the set, and I'm really happy to hear that. We wanted to do something that was truly big to go with this. And the first concept of the set was, a lot shorter. And we said, it just doesn't look right. You can't have a big boy and have like 3 or 4 freight cars behind it. That's not a big boy set. So we went the whole 9 yards with, the full 3 packs with the Vision reefers and stock cars, the caboose. And then the box car in this is really cool because this will be the start of a series of Union Pacific World War II poster art box cars. So you'll be seeing more of those in C2 and 2024 Volume 1. But this will be the first in the series and the only set we release this poster on. Each set will have each car will have a different poster and so forth. So some really neat art in there, and it'll be I think something a lot of people will want to have the full collection of. So if you're that kind of guy and you got to have the full set of things, well, we're starting you off now with the Big Boy Super Set.
Yeah, that thing's a killer. I don't have a loading dock in my house for this to get delivered, but when you talk about trying to sneak it in my house, this box will be so big that there's no possible way my wife would conceive that it could possibly be a model train. So I'm not concerned about that. But I do want to point out, that's exactly it. This thing has 7 speakers in this set, right? 3 in the engine, 1 for the reefers, 1 for the stock cars, a sound box car, and then the sound caboose.
Yeah, that's correct. You'll have a 7-speaker train set here.
So I also need to buy 2 more ZWLs to power just the sound system.
Your ZWL will be fine. Do not try and run this thing off of a CW80. It's
Fair
not
enough.
Oh man, I totally missed it. The caboose has sound. That's. I don't think they've ever done that before.
Yeah, can you talk about that?
Yeah, the Vision caboose is something that's the last time we did a Crew Talk caboose was back in TMCC days. So it's been a little while. But this one will have even more features than that. And I think it's one of the neater pieces in the set, to be honest. It sort of functions a lot like, in terms of level of functionality, it's very similar to something like the horse cars were, or some of the Vision baggage car, for example. You have a variety of Crew Talk sounds in there. You'll have the air whistle if you're making a backup move. And it'll have a track IR on there as well, which to me is pretty cool, because if you're using our sensor tracks, now you can trigger functions when the train is finished passing by. So as the caboose passes over that sensor track, you can trigger it to do things essentially as the train leaves that section of track. So for guys who are using that, it really has some neat potentials. And I can't wait to see some of the things guys do to operate their, automate their layouts using sensor track and these cabooses.
That's really neat. The rendering image of the set, Ryan, it looks like the caboose has smoke coming out of it. Is that just the image, or will it have a smoke unit in there also?
That's just from the image. There won't be any smoke in these. Yeah, with everything else we've got in there, the last thing I'd want to try and cram into that and cram in around the electronics is a smoke unit. And I've always found the smoking cabooses to be a little bit either overdone or underdone. To do it right, you don't really notice the smoke at all if the train's moving, and to do it to where you see the smoke, it looks like they've got a fire going on inside that thing. So the smoking caboose, not on this one, but you've got the electro coupler, you've got the LED marker lights on the end, and interior lights. We'll get as much of an interior detail wise in there as we can, of course. Some of the pieces of the normal interior will be taken out to make room for the electronics. But it's a full featured car, and really will be a nice complement to the locomotive at the other end of the train.
Yeah, that'll be neat.
Yeah, super excited for these cabooses. I'm familiar with the ones from the TMCC days. I've yet to have Matt over there actually play with his when I'm around. Matt, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Will these? Correct me if I'm wrong, Matt. Didn't the TMCC ones used to communicate with the engine too, or am I thinking something else?
There was a deliberate pause put in. If you made them the same engine number, so you made the TMCC caboose and your engine the same number. That's why when you hit button 7, there's a pause in there, because apparently when you hit 7, the caboose would say it's line or script, and then the engine would go ahead and process its dialogue as well. And at least I remember that's why they had that in there.
It's cool. Yeah, it's nice to see a modern successor to that, with its own features and sounds. I'm very curious how these will turn out. I definitely will be picking one up for sure, for the big boy. I also plan to pick up. So nice to see these returning. How about you, Matt? You gonna grab one?
Yes, I do plan on pre-ordering one of the Vision Big Boys. Actually, I am going to pre-order the Mr. Muffin one, which is the 4000 as delivered with the big boy chalk on the front, and of course, as delivered is coal burning. So, looking forward to having this delivered, and of course, back on the Vision Boy superset, we are forgetting some people on this. So we do want to apologize to all the UPS and FedEx drivers out there that will have to bring this to your front door.
Who needs a front door? Yeah, but see, you have a sunroof? Well, just knock the window out and lift it down with the crane. Come on.
There you go. We do have a jump back a page with the UP passenger cars. We did have a question on those. Do you guys plan on doing any more power cars or sleepers in the future? I don't particularly like to ask you about hey, what's coming in the next catalog, but because we're seeing obviously a lot of UP cars here, are there plans for more UP cars?
We've definitely had a lot of requests for some of the unique power cars and things like that train has. And I have definitely not ruled them out for future production. But the one thing I would say at this point is, the tooling budget for this catalog was already pretty well maxed out. You'll see some more UP things coming down the road, of course. And some of that was intentional, as I wanted to spread some things out so that if you were buying a big boy, you didn't feel like you had to buy, everything that would go with it if you all at once. Sometimes it's nice to spread some of those things out a little bit. So you'll be seeing some more UP and some more things that will go back with this, or your Challengers or your other locomotives over the next couple of catalogs as well. The generator cars are a little bit further out, so they're not really in there right now with everything else we have stuffed into the tooling budget, but they're certainly on the list for down the road as we have some room in the tooling budget to add those in there.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
I like the sound of all of that. Thank you. Spreading out the love is much appreciated, Ryan. Thank you.
The wall can only take so much. Do we just kind of piggybacking off of the passenger cars here? I know some folks were also curious on I see the announcement of a new Station Sounds car. I think the last one we got was the Frontier Days Excursion. I know that's one that Matt and I also have. Do we have any ideas of what potential announcements are on this one, or is it too early in the game to know quite yet?
Have not picked out the name for the announcement car on this one yet. No, we'll do something different than the Frontier Days. The last time we did this particular passenger car was in the George Bush funeral train set, so we definitely won't be using that train name. So we'll come up with something. If anybody has any ideas or suggestions, by all means, feel free to send them our way.
I got one more question on the superset. I think I know the answer. I just wanted to make sure. But that big boy, that's a coal burning one, correct?
Correct. Yes. The only oil burner we're doing in this round is the 4014 Excursion.
Okay, cool. I wish it had smoke. I wish the one in the set had the smoke deflectors, but oh well.
Actually, I have a question based off that for one of our, at least my last big boy question from our community was people were asking if if it's just by an off chance, would any of the smoke deflectors be backwards compatible with the previous ones? I know it's a long shot, but folks were curious.
I don't know the answer to that one off the top of my head. They're magnetic. There's a good chance that they would fit on there. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at our prototype, which I'll see it here very shortly. I just don't have it in front of me here tonight. And I'll look and see if there would be a way to do that. I can't say for sure that they will. There might be magnets added in underneath the walkways as well to help secure those. But certainly if you had a little bit of ingenuity and are willing to do a little bit of actual modeling in your model railroad hobby, rigging up a way to attach them wouldn't be an issue. They'll be sized just right, so that wouldn't be a problem.
Cool. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of an odder question, but something that folks are curious. So thank you.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to page 14 and 15, which is the new Vision, not the new, but the re-released Vision reefer sets. And I do have a question on that. Do you know, Ryan, if these will have the same sound set as previous runs, or will these be updated sound sets in these reefers?
Right now, these are set to have the same sound sets as previous runs. We may tweak a few things, but I don't see any major changes coming in these right now.
Okay. Anyone else have anything on the reefers? Okay.
Not me.
All right. Let's go ahead and move to page 16 and 17. And looks like we're getting some more Vision stock cars. And we have a new animal to bring into the zoo here, which is the sheep. So I'm excited about that. I'm a big fan of the animal kind of stock cars. So I think I've collected them all so far. So I'm looking forward to adding some sheep into my collection.
It's sheer excitement.
I kind of want to know what's after sheep. Are you guys going to do like chickens?
The poultry cars were definitely a thing, but the look of a poultry car is very different on the outside than any of the other single or bi-level stock cars. These will be the bi-level type. The door on the art isn't quite right on these, but these will have the bi-level like the hog cars.
The pig hogs. Okay.
Yeah. A Vision chicken car is definitely something that that's in the back of my mind and something that would be fun to do. Those cars actually rode with an attendant the entire time. And I cannot really imagine a worse job than that. The dialogue would be a very interesting one if we could pull off the chicken car.
Get me the heck out of here.
Well, if you've ever driven past a chicken farm, you already have a sense of what that would be like. And imagine being stuck in there for hours on end with a few hundred head of angry chickens. I don't think it was very pleasant.
It's not pleasant. That's my commute every day. It's not pleasant. These are really, really nice. It makes me, when I saw these in here, I immediately got the instant regret of having not started collecting these back in the day when they first started coming out. But the sheep are neat. I look forward to the goats, hopefully in the future. You could have fun with the quilling goat, I'm sure.
And monkeys.
I was going to say monkeys. Yeah, I got to have a circus trade. I've been threatening Matt R with buying him one of the old QSI sound cards for monkey sounds and putting in one of his stock cars and not telling him. So maybe we can. There you go. Maybe we can make him buy one.
Hey, I do have a quick question on the stock cars, but it's sort of going backwards. The stock cars that are in the super set, are those going to have the sheep sounds as well?
Yes, those will also have the sheep sounds.
Okay, right on, cool.
Yep. And the UP stock cars that are in the set, same with the reefers, they have different road numbers than the separate sale 3-packs of these cars. So if you want to do a longer train, you could have 6 cars with different numbers with the stock cars for UP.
Right on.
All right. Let's go ahead and move into Steam here. And on page 20 and 21. And I do have to say, Ryan, thank you. I have been asking for streamlined Steam engines for a while here, and you delivered. So these are absolutely fantastic looking. You've probably made a lot of New York Central fans very, very happy with these offerings.
Well, I certainly hope so. This is one that's been out of the Lionel catalog for far too long. So it's such an iconic locomotive. Even as a Pennsylvania Railroad guy, I think this is one of the nicest looking steam locomotives ever designed. So I'm really happy to have it back in the line. Again, new tooling for the boiler and everything. It's going to be a sharp engine, and we worked a lot of things into this that our previous Hudsons and never had, with the modularity of the streamlining that can come off appropriately for different eras, the different styles of drivers, of course, the PT tender with the extra smoke effects, lots of really nice features on this one. And between this and the passenger cars to match, it's going to be a very sharp looking train.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. Especially with the multiple versions with the streamlining, like you were saying, and that PT tender with the scoop effect. That's the one I'm getting. So I'm excited about that as well. That the one that's like a darker, is that a dark gray or is it like a blue gray? What color?
It'll be a dark gray. So we reverse the colors on that. After these engines have all been de-streamlined and we're back in the regular pool, the New York Central went and sort of switched the colors out on the passenger cars to a dark gray predominant with a light gray stripe, as opposed to the earlier 20th centuries that were reversed of that. And so we just took sort of the idea of, well, what if the locomotive stayed around and they did the same with the engine? And I think it actually looks pretty darn sharp. The other one, which you'll probably see up on our online store here very soon, that isn't in the catalog, but it'll be our online store exclusive Lionel locomotive of the year for the store. That will also be a Hudson, and we have a new color finish paint that will be going on that has I don't even really know how to describe it. It's almost a bit of a color changing from a blue to from between two different shades of blue. That's very striking when you see it in person. No real way to adequately illustrate it in the catalog. We'll have to show some samples when we get the paints and whatnot for people to see. But highly encourage people, when you see that, if you like something that's a little bit different, take a look at that, because it's going to be a beautiful locomotive. Would look really nice with the 120th passenger cars that came out a few years ago, as well as anything else. But a really nice, dazzling blue finish and with orange accents and everything else. So there's another one to take a look for online.
It's great.
I know you can't give like an official answer on this, but this is a question that we had. Will it be possible to run these on like 060 curves? I mean, I know they're just a Hudson, but maybe we're at the mercy of the tender.
Yeah, no, we did check this, and 060 we can definitely do. 060 is doable. I can't promise 054, but 060 you should be good on with either tender. Dave was able to put that on the test track and make sure that it would work. So we're pretty confident 060 you won't have any problems on these.
Excellent. And then I have another kind of two-part question here. Will these Dreyfuss engines be more of the medium type of gray that was prototypical and that Lionel did in the previous run of the Dreyfuss, or are they going to be like a really light gray kind of boarding on a white paint scheme that's represented in the catalog?
Yeah, they'll definitely be a more medium gray. Okay. The color of New York Central Hudsons is very debated, to the point that I think the accepted answer now is that there is no answer for this particular year and time for this paint. A lot of theories about it and on how light or dark it was, but the general consensus is that sort of a medium gray is right for these. As soon as I have, and I've asked the factory to send us a sample of the gray before they start anything else in production, deco wise. As soon as we have a sample of that I can put up and post so people have a sense of what they're going to look like, I plan to do that, because I know it's one of those big questions with these: is it going to match? We will do our best to make sure that the passenger cars also match the locomotive. The reason I say that we'll do our best is not just because they're done in different factories, but because plastic and metal, you don't always get exactly the same finish. Sometimes you can get a little bit of a variation there. Even if you take the paint out of the same bottle and paint both, you'll see a little bit of a difference. But one thing I absolutely cannot promise is that these will match any other rolling stock you may have from previous Lionel releases, MTH, Third Rail, K-Line, Weaver, you name it. Everyone has their own take of New York Central gray. So your mileage will probably vary depending on what you want to pair this with.
Yeah, and that's a totally fair answer too. And the last question we had was, are these going to have ground lights?
I don't have any ground lights called out on them right now. I'm not sure if the prototype had them, where they would be located. Is one thing I have heard. People saying they'd like to see on here. But I don't know if that's hey, we'd like to see these on here because it would look cool, or hey, these should be on here because they should be on here type
Gotcha.
of question.
Okay, yeah, I don't know either, but it was asked by one of our Discord members. So appreciate that.
Yeah. If someone has some information that they can pass along to me, by all means, please do, and I'll look into it. We have the design done. We're working on tooling now, but ground lights would not be a difficult thing to add to a locomotive like this if I know where to put them and if they're prototypical.
I have a question about the passenger cars, Ryan. This set, the 20th Century Limited diner car, and then they're later on with the Aberdeen set too. You guys have started to do a 2-pack for the diners. Just wanted to see if you could talk about your reasoning behind going with a 2-pack for diners as opposed to just the single car like before.
Oh, sure. In this case, we're doing it because the train ran with 2 diners. And the same is true for the AC&W. They have a pair of cars that are used together on their trains. We did this for the Broadway Limited, I believe, as well, where the train had a kitchen car and a full dining car. The 20th Century was a little bit different in that the 2 dining cars were identical. They just turned them, dining end to dining end, and ran them as a single unit. So the 20th Century always had 2 diners. And I, of course, I should say always in quotes, but always as far as any research goes or any official documents go. So to model the train right, you'd need 2 cars. Doing it as a 2-pack also sort of gets us there a little bit less expensively than saying, well, just buy 2 Station Sounds diners, right? You don't need two dining cars with sound. So one of these will have the sound, one of them will have the lighted interior, and that way you don't have to buy 2 sound cars to get the accurate paired dining car on these.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a feeling, my gut feeling on these New York Centrals 20th Century Limiteds are that I think you're going to get a lot of people who aren't like New York Central fans just to buy these because they're just so absolutely just gorgeous looking. And, it's just, it's been a while since we've had a really true streamlined steam engine. So I think these are probably they're definitely the most talked about item, at least from all of the forums and Facebook and Discord that I've been in. So these are really exciting.
Thank you for that. And we always release our Vision engine a little bit early, but selfishly in this catalog, it was nice to get that one out a few months early because it allowed for that buzz to happen and take place. And then knowing that this was coming, there was still a big hurrah when this came out. It was also fun reading all the big boy posts of why can't they do something new like a Dreyfuss Hudson, and chuckling as we read all those. The reason that you see this and the big boy on the cover is because they're both just 2 of the most iconic locomotives in all of railroading, right? When you think iconic locomotive shapes, you think Dreyfuss Hudson, you think big boy, you think GG1, you think, E or F units from EMD. Those are just the faces of railroading that everybody knows. Even if you don't really know trains, you probably know this train where you've seen it somewhere. This is one that, in the office, when I said this is the next engine we're going to do, everyone, whether they were train people or not, was like, yes, we're doing that. That is, that is a beautiful locomotive and it needs to happen. So it was only natural that it should be one of the cover girls. And I said, we do a cover with a Dreyfuss and a big boy on it. And if that doesn't make people want to grab the catalog and start going through it, I don't know what would. You don't have a pulse if you don't like this stuff. You don't have to be a Central guy. You don't have to be a UP guy to like these locomotives. And I think that's why the big boy continues to be such a big seller for us and everyone else. People just know it and love it.
Absolutely. All right. Does anyone else have any other comments or questions on the 20th Century Limited? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and move on. All right. Moving on to page 24 and 25, we have the Russian Decapod. And these are pretty cool, especially one of them, which is obviously very close to us Chicagoland people. Chris, go ahead. You gotta raise your hand.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see these in the catalog. I think they're just so neat. But the one that really stands out to me is the Erie version here. with the blue boiler. So is that blue going to be like the Russian iron that we saw on the NLOE Camelback from a few years ago? Or is it going to be more of a dark navy blue?
That will be the same Russia iron blue that NLOE Camelback had on it. And that'll be the same blue we put on the Camelback in this catalog that has that boiler as well.
Okay.
It turned out beautifully. That model, that NLOE Camelback, for those who hadn't seen it, is one of the most beautiful Camelbacks we've made. And looking through photos of the Erie, they did have a number of these engines that had that bluish boiler to them. And I think it really makes this one jump out. It sets it apart from some of the other models, and for my money, is probably the most attractive of the bunch.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm thrilled to hear you say that that's going to be the same color, because that Camelback is absolutely stunning. So this will be really cool to see when it's finished.
Now, I do have several questions on the Decapod. So there's a good amount of them. So first thing first here, I know you had kind of explained this on the Facebook and the YouTube stream, but the wired tether, can you just explain that for the folks around why this has a wired tether?
Sure. This has a wired tether because the electronics for this have to go in the tender. There is just no way to put our electronics PCB in this boiler. It is way too small. So the boards are located in the tender, and that leads to a wired tether to connect all the smarts to the motor and all the smoke units, etc. No way around it on this one. It does also give us the ability, however, that we can put pickups on the tender and pickups on the locomotive, so you will get a larger contact area. If you're running this at slow speeds and you're running it through switches and so forth, that's always a plus on your track work. So lots of advantages to it. It's certainly not something we like to do. We like to put the boards in the locomotive and use the wireless tether as much as possible. It's actually, I think, a lot easier on us from a manufacturing and a programming standpoint. But with this one, it just wasn't going to happen.
I've just got a side question. Was the previous 060 from the 2022 Volume 1, did that have the tether for the same reason, because you had to put all the electronics in the tender?
Yeah, the tether for the electronics, and also on that to an extent with the switchers, we really do like to have the tender pickups, because you have that small rigid wheelbase, and even as big as it is in O gauge and with the third rail pickup, that can be an issue for you when you're creeping at slow speeds and going through switches, which is kind of what you want to do with a switcher. So having the extra pickups on the 060 really helps out with that. We've done that in the past with the Penske B6, with I believe the 080s. The last time we ran those in Legacy had a tender pickup. It just makes it easier for everything to fit. Gives us room. In that case, again, the boiler's very small. I don't think could have fit the board in there, even if we had wanted to as an option. And you just got to find a place for the electronics to fit. And so on some of these small steam engines, that ends up being the tender.
Now, these engines are pretty small. I can attest. I actually recently got a Decapod from the MTH days, and I opened mine up, and there's no room inside that boiler. There's nothing. There's enough for a motor and smoking it, and that's as far as I was able to get. I could see them cramming in there, so I don't blame you guys one bit.
Yeah, we couldn't even get a whistle steam smoke unit in these. You can barely get a single smoke unit in this engine. It just fits inside that smoke box. So we did, however, get the swinging bell on all these except for the Frisco, just because it's out there in front of the smoke box. But for all the other locomotives, we were able to get the swinging bell in, which is a nice compromise if we can't do whistle steam.
Yeah, I agree. And I do like having that tether on these small things, because it like you were saying, you're going through switches and something this small, it's going to conk out if you don't have a broad pickup base. So yeah.
Kind of piggybacking off of that a little bit here, you mentioned the 1630, which I cannot express how many people were so excited about this engine when they saw it. As a Chicagoan, seeing 1630 riding behind it, it is fantastic to see that engine. However, I would be crucified if I did not ask this on behalf of the people who have been to IRM. I know this is a standard steam engine in the line, and it's not any Brass Hybrid or Vision Line model. Would you guys ever consider going out to record the actual sounds? Because I know this is a big make or break for a lot of people.
It's funny you should ask that. Just yesterday, we received a contact from IRM inviting us to do just that. And so we're working on trying to make that happen. I can't give you a definite yes on that right now, but in all likelihood, yes, we will be making a trip to IRM early this summer to record the 1630. And, they've got a few other things out there too. So we'll probably try and get a lot out of that trip. I think it'll be really, really worthwhile. So they've definitely stepped up to the plate and offered to help us in any way that they can. I've been there once before. It's been quite a few years, and I'm hoping I get the chance to go back. I knew this one would be a very popular one for people because it had not been done before in O-Gauge, and that was a pretty big oversight. I know there are some differences between this and the other Russians, it being a Baldwin built and so forth. We are making some tooling changes to get this one, if not 100%, at least significantly closer. So we're doing a separate boiler tool for this, and probably the majority of the tooling budget we're spending on this locomotive, aside from making it legacy and the things we have to do that, the biggest tooling spend in terms of a detail perspective is certainly on the 1630. So very excited to bring this one out and do the engine justice. It's a neat locomotive, and you're going to have Russian decapods in your catalog. To not do 1630 is kind of a crime against humanity. So we want to get this one out there. And if we have the opportunity and can make it all work, yes, having the sounds from the real locomotive is the best way to go on these.
Ryan, I just placed my pre-order, man. I was content. I didn't need anything else, and now you've sealed my fate here. Funny enough, I actually know the guy who nudged the Steam department to reach out to you guys. So that's good to hear that you guys received their email. But yeah, a lot of folks are very excited. It was probably the second most asked about engine we had during our catalog talk on our server. So this one's very hyped. A lot of people are very excited.
Yeah, I think the Steam section of this catalog in particular is probably the best round of Steam locomotives that I can recall. Maybe 2014 when we had the big boy, the cab forward, and the nickel plate Berks and an M1 and all that in there. That was a pretty darn good one too. But for overall balance geographically and size and scope for the locomotives, I felt like as I went through this catalog again for the first time, in the review phase, you put all this stuff together and then you sort of walk away from it for a while and move on to other things. And then you come back to it as it starts to pull together. And I remember just going through the page of this going, darn, this is a good catalog. Every page on this is going to hit somebody in a way that means something. And the 1630 here, and even some of the other decapods as well, for other roads, I think will make a lot of people very happy. I will point out for the Philadelphia and Reading fans, if there's any of you listening, yes, the number did get transposed in the art, and yes, that's already been corrected in the art. It will be 1126 and not 1162 in the production. So that'll be good to go.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time deciding between these. I love the Frisco and the Erie, and I'm probably gonna have to flip a coin to decide which one to get.
Yeah, both of those seem like obvious front runners. I like the USA and the Reading versions because they're so close to the as-built, and they have that funky railing around them, everything, and they're just they're a very different looking locomotive.
Yeah, I actually initially wrote down the Minneapolis Northfield one, but I had a question mark next to it because I just can't make up my mind.
And the great thing about Russians is there's plenty of other road names we can do on this. I actually tried to stay away from some of the road names that MTH had done frequently and hit some things that hadn't been done at least as often or as recently on these. So future runs of these are definitely planned. If you didn't see the paint scheme you want right now, just give me some time.
Awesome. I got a couple other questions from our community as well. Now, since this is going to be a wired tether, I'm not sure how applicable this will be to this particular engine, but some folks were curious on things such as kinematic drawbar or ashpan glow. Not really sure about kinematic, but will we be seeing ashpan glow on this engine as well?
These, if I recall correctly, do have the ashpan glow. I think that shows a little bit in the art, but it's always hard to tell. Ashpan glow,
you can see it in the
I'm
art.
pretty sure on that one. Kinematic, I don't know if I would define this as kinematic or not, but it's a close drawbar. It is a very nice tight drawbar. We've done everything we can recently to try and pull those in and get the tender distance something a little bit more reasonable on steam locomotives.
Gotcha. I think the last one here, this kind of coincides with what you said previously. This is again to some folks are asking about 1630. We're asking if there were going to be the whistle was going to be coming from the steam dome, or they were also asking about if there's going to be like a headlight visor on 1630, since that's a really big defining feature for the engine as well.
Yes, visor, headlight, and whistle on the steam dome are doable. That they'll have.
Awesome.
It also has the scalloped coonskin number board as well.
Oh,
it's kind of hard
perfect.
to pick out in the catalog, but we definitely have that detail on there.
Very excited. Awesome. Anybody else got any questions about the Decapod? All right, let's move on over to the Pensy Decapod, which, Chris, you're our resident Pensy guy. Do you want to take the lead and introduce this one here?
Yeah, so I was delighted to hear that this was going to be in the catalog. Been waiting for this for a long time. So, and then not only delighted to see it, but then blown away by just the amount of options that are cataloged. I mean, there's only four images here, plus the Hippo set later on, but then each one, there's 8 just on this one page alone. So it's endless. I'm happy to see them. I've already pre-ordered one. So pre-ordered a short tender. So we'll see what happens between now and the deadline. If a long haul tender gets added as well, we'll just have to wait and see.
Yep, easily my favorite Pensy steam locomotive, and glad to finally put these in a Lionel catalog as well. And there were 600 of these or so on the Pensy, so variations aplenty. And I'm sure we'll be doing more runs of these down the road as well. And there's still some more tender options we have to put behind them. Probably could have done 30 SKUs of these in the catalog, but you got to pace it out a little bit for you guys.
Yeah, I appreciate that. What can you talk? Are there some differences between them other than the paint on the cab roof and tender deck?
Sure. So the two biggest detail differences are the tenders, obviously, and then the front end details. You have what we call the pre-war and the post-war versions, and this is pretty common across most Pensy steam. That during the war years, they started relocating the headlight to the top of the smoke box and pulling the dynamo forward onto the platform where the headlight would have been prior to the war. Made it easier for maintenance purposes. The I-1 didn't change the look as much as some of the other engines, where they also added the platform sort of lower down on the smoke box front. You already had that over top of the air tanks on the I-1, so that was already there. But that's your biggest difference pre and post war on these. They didn't all get the treatment. So for the Lionel versions here, I wanted to mix and match. So you've got 2 with the short tender in the pre-war and 2 short tenders with the post-war. And then with the long hauls, you've got 2 pre-war and 2 post-war. The numbers will be the same as the one shown in the catalog. The one that's not shown is the same as the one that is shown. For the pre-war details and the long haul tender, everything that I found on the locomotives that had the tender that we've got here, which is basically the same tender as the Q1s had, those came post-war. So I did find prototypical photos of pre-war front ends with the long haul tender that we're using, but they would have already been past that point in time when the roofs would have been painted the red and the tender decks would have been painted red. So that's why all the long haul variations have the dark green tops to them. And then with the short tenders, again, following the war, a lot of that red painting started to go by the wayside. So typically you would see a dark green cab roof and tender deck at that point. People who know Penske know that there were exceptions to every rule. And you also know that it doesn't really matter what color they put on that cab roof. It could have been bright pink. You never would have known it under the 2 inches of soot that were on top of these things. So the I-1s didn't get washed all that regularly from what I can tell from photos. So for the guys who are looking for a pre-war look, truly pre-war look, you want to look at the short tender and early front end. But for the 40s and 50s, really almost any of these will fly for you because they had all sorts of variations. As I said, there were almost 600 of these things on the roster. No two of them were exactly the same. So you've got plenty of room for variety.
Yeah, these are just awesome. I'm just elated. I don't have any questions. I'm just happy to see them.
Yeah, me too. Already got it on my pre-order list. The short tender one. Chris, I was going to say, Chris, did you get a short tender one or the long tender?
I went with a short tender.
Okay, yeah. Did you get the one with the red roof?
I did, yeah. 4250. The one that's not shown is the one that I went with.
Yeah, right on.
Yep. The nice thing is now I have a 28-inch turntable on my layout, and I can still fit the long tender one if I wanted to, which is nice. So it just adds more options for down the road, I guess.
Seems I've gotten a lot of locomotives with long tenders lately, so I was kind of looking forward to a short tender, so that's why I went with that one. I just got that 210-4 that has that massive tender, so I was like, I'll get a short tender for a change.
I do have some questions from the Discord server. No, I'm not a Penske guy, so apologize if I say something incorrect here. So I'm sure Chris can correct me. So this is kind of a two-parter, three-parter. I don't know. Will the early era short tender version of the L1 have the proper shade of freight color red on the cab roof and tender deck?
Okay, so this will be one of those. Another one of those is the color right questions. The freight car red that we're using now for the tender deck is as close as I can find as something that will be accurate for Penske freight car color. The paint diagrams and specifications for the PRR in this period called for the tender deck to be freight car red and the cab roof to be a mixture of freight car red and black. There's nothing prescribing the ratio of red to black. And it looks like the shops kind of took that up on their own. But the official Penske paint color codes call for that roof to be a darker red than the tender deck. And that's why you see them illustrated that way in the catalog and why we've done them that way several times over. There's a lot of dispute over what is a proper freight car red. Again, I think people have gotten used to different things over the years for both Penske freight car red and Tuscan red. To where some people picture it a lot more brown. Some people picture it a lot more light from sun fading. It depends on the car and the time and the year and so forth. But there's a pretty good variety of what's sort of considered normal in Penske freight car red. And again, when you're talking rosters as large as the Pennsylvania and equipment that stays in service for a long time, and it's freight cars, they weather and they age. And if you look down a string of cars, you were going to see variety on the real thing too. So that's the reason for the two color reds. From a Penske perspective, while it looks kind of odd in model form, that is the correct way to do it.
Gotcha. Thank you for that clarification. Are the long haul tenders going to have train phone antennas?
These do not. Again, because the photos I found of these locomotive numbers with these tenders did not have train phone antenna from what I could see in any of the photos. So we did not include them on these models. Down the road, Penske I1s with train phone equipped tenders, definitely an option.
Gotcha. And I have another question. Now, this might be a question that's more of a general question for steam engines, but somebody had asked if the force coupler feature was something that could be added to this, or is that something that's just only on Vision line models at this time?
It's not restricted only to Vision line. It did not get added into this locomotive, but it is something we could look at and something we're trying to bring into more and more of the engines.
Okay, excellent. All right, moving on to a page to more of my liking. So, all right, we got the Santa Fe 2900s Northerns. These are absolutely fantastic. Especially I'll have to tell you, Ryan, that Blue Goose, you guys, that is well done.
Thank you. We are going to adjust the colors a little bit over the 3751 class Northern that we did the last time around, especially on that lighter blue. Going to make it a little bit less of it's a boy locomotive, and get something a little bit. So this is a little bit more of a grayish. I don't want to say silver blue, but I think you get the idea of what I'm going at here.
Yeah, well, this is also more of a two-tone as well, whereas the 3751 was almost pretty much all blue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these are great. Let's see, we have look for any questions here. So, will all or any of the versions have the correct box POC type B drivers and roller bearing rods?
We have the drivers that we're using on this are what we had from MTH. I did not retool the drivers or the rods on these.
All right, second question. Will the driver color on the Blue Goose be black or blue or something else?
We're showing it as
that's
black
what I was
here.
Going to ask as well.
I'm going to keep them black. I think too much blue and they start to look, it starts to overpower the engine. So having the black on the drivers and the trucks sort of keeps everything in balance on this scheme.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I love that Blue Goose. That's got me all over it. And I've always been kicking myself that I didn't order the last time you guys did one of these blue 484s. I think it was in 2019. I think that's the one we were talking about. But so as soon as I saw that, I said, yep, gonna get that. Super excited about it.
Which one are you gonna get, Eric?
Oh, I'm gonna get the Blue Goose one.
Okay.
Yeah. Because they did a blue 484 in 2019. It wasn't. I don't know if it was really meant to be a Blue Goose, but it was. I think that's the one Ryan was talking about, where it was kind of it's a boy blue, and I always kick myself for not getting that. And so when I saw this, I said, "I'm getting that this time. I'm not gonna let it go by." So.
Anyone else have any comments or questions on the Santa Fe Northerns?
Just a cool engine. I'm really excited to see 2926 and this run. I know that's an engine that's getting a lot of hype because it was just restored, and everybody's itching to see that thing go in the main line soon. So being able to have a restoration version and an in-service version is really cool.
Is this the one that has the? Do they have the multiple smokestacks on this, or is that something else I'm thinking of?
Yeah, these will as well. We didn't actually call that out as a feature in the catalog. I'm just now noticing. I'm actually glad you mentioned it, Eric. But yeah, the boiler on these is the same boiler that we used on the 2900, or sorry, the 5000s, the Texas engines, which is the same thing the Santa Fe did. It was the same engine from the boiler and all that. It was just a different set of running gear underneath her. So yeah, that tooling's already there. There's the interchangeable stacks to do the raising and lowering. If you want to do the raised stack. You can do that on these as well.
That's great.
I'm guessing the tender is exactly the same too, because they look pretty much identical.
Yep, they had the same tenders too.
All right. Yeah, great job on these. This is definitely one that I will be picking up as well. All right, let's go ahead and move on to page 30 and 31. We have some Camelbacks.
I have to say the Atlantic City Railroad one just looks like an absolute knockout model. Those the colors on that, the red drivers, just or side rods rather, just looks really, really neat. That's such a cool look. I was messaging a buddy when we were looking at the catalog and talking about, okay, I guess if that's one I go with, I got to figure out what to run with it, but that's a neat East Coast railroad. So I'm tempted on that for sure.
Yeah, I'm torn between that and the Erie. They both have that nice blue to them, so I'm not sure which one I'm going to get. You know what? The thing I like most about this is the price. To be honest, I think this is something that kind of throws a bone to people who, because there's a lot of expensive steam in this catalog, and I think the $6.99 kind of throws a bone to people who might not be able to afford the big boy or something like that. So I really like seeing this in the catalog for that reason. Oh yeah, not to mention it's just a fantastic locomotive. I've got a Camelback from a few years ago, and it's fantastic. So great locomotive at a nice price. Can't beat that.
Yeah, I think you make a good point too, because these also have whistle steam. And these are kind of like the 280, the consolidations from like a couple catalogs ago, where you got $700, and it's probably even cheaper than that, right? From a good dealer, and you're getting a legacy steam engine, legacy sounds, and whistle steam. That's really hard to beat.
I know these and a bunch of other items from the previous catalog. Yeah, kind of piggyback on what you guys said, like the consolidations, Camelbacks, the Atlantics. Like they have been super popular for folks, and they're a great entry level legacy scale steam engine for those trying to move up to scale and stuff. So definitely agree with you guys there. Awesome engines.
Ryan, I have a question on these. The rendering here, I had one of these Camelbacks from the last release. I don't have it anymore, but does this have a wireless tether, or is it wired because they're so short?
These do have a wireless tether.
Okay.
Unless I'm remembering that really wrong, these do have a wireless tether.
I thought so. Just the rendering, I guess it just looks thicker than the normal IR tether.
Yeah, I think it's just the angle and the way things are tucked on in there. But yeah, these are nice. And I think in addition to the price point, which is we try and keep down on these, it's nice to put some locomotives in the catalog that will do an 031 curve without any troubles as well. So without having to be semi-scale.
Yep, that is a really good point as well. All right, let's go ahead and move into legacy diesels. So I'm on page 34 and 35 for those going through the catalog at home. And it's got some E8 and E9 sets. Pretty cool. That New York Central is very striking, I have to say.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
Yeah, they only did a pair, and I can sort of see why, but they definitely stand out.
I really like the SP ones. Those ones are really cool. I gotta ask because folks were curious about it. 6051 in SP is one of the survivors that's still in daylight. Any particular reason that we saw Bloody Nose this time?
I had a lot of good pictures of it, and the daylight scheme is so iconic for the Southern Pacific and just in general, and yet really the Bloody Nose scheme on these E8s was more common and lasted a lot longer, a lot more years, and so just felt like it was time to do the Bloody Nose. If you look, really all of the paint schemes here, to some extent, are kind of oddballs. When you think Southern, you think green and the crescent, but the tuxedo scheme works on these just as well. Certainly you don't think green when you think New York Central. So I wanted to highlight some of the neat paint schemes that these locomotives wore that weren't necessarily the first thing you think of when you think E8.
I love the detail on the Amtrak units, especially the rear one with all the detail on the roof. I think it's that XUP or something along those lines, those specific detailing for that.
Yeah, I can't remember if that was UP. Yeah, it must have been UP because the SPEs didn't get the icebreakers, I don't think. But there were a number of units that had those. I think, if I remember correctly, the rear unit does not have the Mars light. It has the beacon on top. The 410 does still have the Mars light in the nose. So we did a couple little detail differences to again get back into that early Amtrak years, which is just fun to model because there's almost anything goes.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that with the two different E units, because I actually have the Burlington Northern version of these, and it's actually pretty cool. It's actually two different, obviously, fronts. Like I have the double headlight with the Mars, and then the other one is a single headlight with a flashing beacon. But I actually like that kind of detailed touch where it's actually like technically two different versions of the same model. And I think we had a question on that too. Whether I'm sure that beacon's going to be just a normal lighted beacon as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fun when we can do some different things like that and sneak in some different details to match the prototypes. It's one of the things I was kind of liked about diesels too. Was the old argument was they all look the same, but when you start getting into it a little bit more, you realize that the little details start to count for something. So if we can add that in there and give you a little bit of variety, it's nice.
Who says they all look the same?
Steam guys say they all look the same.
Yeah, there's an argument for that for sure. I can.
And I guess if you were used to watching Steam and then GP9s came in and took over everything, you'd kind of feel the same way I feel about Gevos and SD70s today. But without longing for the days of standard cabs and 40-2s and all that good stuff. But yeah, it's changing times and different things. But the more you start to look at them, the more you see little detail differences, and that's what makes the hobby fun.
Yeah, this is another one where I'm having a real hard time deciding which one I want to order, because I love the Amtrak, I love the New York Central and the Southern, and of course the AC&W on the next page. So I've got a lot of thinking to do before I put my order in.
Yeah, I had no desire to go into an E8 set coming into this catalog after going through the Steam. And then I saw the New York Central set, and I thought, for someone that doesn't really collect New York Central, that is just, they're too cool to pass up on. I always try to look at these catalogs now and think about what is the one thing that I'm going to regret not buying that I'm never going to find on the secondary market. And I feel like those New York Centrals are probably it from this, definitely from this page. So we'll see. I'm glad
that's a real good point. That's a real good view to have, Chris. I mean, that's which one are you going to regret not buying? And like you said, when the catalog came out, I had the E8 was not on my mind at all. And when I saw these, I was like, oh man, these look great. I got to get one of these.
Yeah.
No, just really quick. Will these have kinematic couplers?
These have the same drawbars one that we've done in the past. I do think they have they may have a bit of a kinematic to them. Certainly on the pilots, they're a little bit more of a standard pilot. I have to double check. It's one of these. I think this was the first engine we did that on, but they all start to run together after a while. These have been in the catalog now for 7-8 years.
It looks like it's got the kinematic pilots on it.
Yeah, honestly, I should double check on that. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I don't think my Burlington Northerns do, if I remember right.
Yeah, let's just clip that one and say, I'll get back to you on that.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Yep. All right, and then of course, again on page 36 and 37, just again beautiful Aberdeen, Carolina Western. That's a striking paint scheme for sure.
Yeah, I think when I saw these as well, it just, and after seeing the F units from the latest catalog get delivered and the colors, everyone that comes over to my layout and sees them are just in awe when they hit the light, the way that the paint just shines. That I'm delighted to see these in here, especially with some more add-on cars for the F unit sets that I got from the last catalog, and the fact that you're getting actual crew dialogue. Whenever we can get some different voices in there, it just makes it so much more realistic when you've got multiple trains running at the same time. So that's great to see.
Yeah, these have been a lot of fun to work with the railroad on. We were putting the art together for these locomotives for the models really right alongside the AC&W team. because they had acquired the locomotives and hadn't painted them yet. And were talking to us about it. And we were working with them on some other things on the F units and so forth. And when we had the opportunity to do this, we were literally, putting the deco on as they were applying it to the engines. It was a fun project. And for those who are in the LCCA or considering joining the LCCA, a trip on this railroad will be part of the convention later this year here in Concord. So be a great chance for those who want to come in and ride this train. It's an absolutely beautiful consist and keeps growing all the time. So we definitely wanted to add a few things, and they've been great to work with. So we've invited them to do some of the crew talk, and they were more than happy and excited to be able to be part of that.
It's a neat railroad I've been kind of researching since I've been doing some writings about the last set of units that you guys came out with. For these, I have a question. The 103 E unit there, is that Mars light down in the middle going to be right in the middle of the logo, similar to the prototype is?
Yeah, we matched the prototypes on that one. The one has a Mars light. I think the other one does not.
Yeah, I don't 101 does. That's cool.
Yeah, and it's odd. It was one of the things they were kind of fussing with too, as they were doing the deco to try and figure out how to accommodate the Mars light on the engine, and make that all sort of work.
All right. Any other questions on the E8s or E9s? All right. Let's go ahead and move into page 38 and 39. We have return of some ES44 ACs. As someone with just BNSF ES44s, I really like these two paint schemes. The Cascade Green one it was very interesting. I actually like how you did the white on the cab there, but I am probably very interested in I think that's the business scheme, if I remember right.
Yeah, those came in on the business train, and then the SD70 Max were delivered in that paint scheme as well.
Yep, I actually have an SD70 Mac in that paint scheme. I picked one up, actually the super base version too, as well.
Yeah, that was sort of the thinking behind most of these units, was to do some of the great paint schemes from the 1990s as if they had still survived into the ES44 era. Not necessarily as a heritage unit, but more as if the paint had still been around or that railroad had still been around type of a take on things.
Yep, absolutely.
I love the Chicago Northwestern scheme. That one's really sharp. Maybe it's because I'm from West Chicago, and you would see the Chicago Northwestern, like, I don't remember what type of deals they were. The old Chicago Northwestern units that some executive or some higher up in the area actually was protecting them even into the UP days to stay keeping Chicago Northwestern paint. And those actually made their way up to IRM a couple of times as well. But really nice to see those come back, even if it is for just a fantasy ES44 scheme. That's really sharp. I love that.
Hey Ryan, I've got a question, just a random question about the super base units. Do they actually is the speaker setup actually different? Is it just another set of speakers, or is the speaker actually different in the super base unit than it is in the powered unit?
It has to do with the enclosure, and then especially the way that it's tuned to get into the lower bass frequencies to really amp up the low end sounds on the locomotive. And that's what gives it that extra throatiness that you hear. It's not just to make it louder, but to actually make it more bass.
Chris, did you have something?
Oh, no, sorry. I had my hand stuck up. My bad. The Conroe one sticks out to me here. I'm just delighted that it's not the Heritage unit. Otherwise, I would have had to buy the ES44, which would have really hurt my wallet with everything else that I've already said that I'm going to probably buy. So I'm dodging a bullet on this one, but who knows? Usually what happens with me is I'll see these come out in person and I'm like, yeah, I need to grab one of those. So the ES44 sounds from the last catalog, I have the EJ and E, the EJ and E one, and the sounds on them are just fantastic. So these will be neat to see when they come out too.
That's usually what happens to me is if I skip it, then I'll go over to the Trainz store to pick up my order, and I'll see one of these on the shelf, and I'll be like, oh man, now I got to get one of these too.
I kind of noticed that on the EJ version too, because a lot of people I think saw that, and I'm like, oh, good, we have some more EJ fans now for our fans of our really small railroad here in Chicago.
Was that that orange one?
Yes, the orange one. Correct.
Yeah.
I think you were or Matt, I think you were the first person to message me and be like, EJ&E on your layout, huh? And I picked that one up from Train World. Yeah, it's a nice model though.
It is. It's still could be on my layout as well. I'm still thinking about it. It should look good with the BNSF ones, right?
Absolutely.
Alrighty, let's go ahead and move on to it's the little NW2s on page 40 and 41.
I like these, and I like all the road name specific details that are on these, depending on which one you get. That's really cool. You know, they got the little, what are those, spark arresters or whatever. Then you got the number boards, you got the handrail variations, the beacon variations, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, these are a fun little locomotive.
Yeah, there's a lot going on these. Like some of them have beacons, number boards, like you said, Eric, the spark arresters. They seem to be pretty well detailed for little switchers.
Yeah. This is some of our newer tooling. Yeah, the switchers are some of our newer tooling, and they were designed with that modularity in mind. And so we already have a lot of different detail options we can apply to these. You know, including taking an NW2 and making it, you know, an SW9 or what have you. But over the years of doing several of these, it's given us, you know, a lot of tools and little details that we can apply and customize them to get them closer to your favorite railroad.
I've been really happy with the all the switchers you guys have been coming out with in recent years. You know, the SW1200 and now the NW2 and the S1 that just came out. They're all great little switchers, and it's always nice to see them in the catalog.
Yeah, it's a very proven chassis at this point that we run quite frequently under appropriate different hoods.
It's cool with the dual smokestacks too. On something that small is neat.
And these
number
also
boards.
fixed. Yeah, I like the number boards as well. And these have fixed pilots as well, so people know.
Now, I probably won't be ordering one of these, but that's for another reason altogether.
I would probably consider the Burlington Northern one.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite of them is the Burlington Northern. We're having a Eric's Trainz one made of these, and so that's why I may still order the Burlington Northern because I like that a lot. But yeah, we're getting a Appalachian and Western one made up, so that's going to be fun to see.
Get it loaded up, Eric. Man,
I did.
Beacon, a swinging bell. Hey, put whistle steam on it. Why not?
Yeah, I made sure to put everything. It basically is like the Burlington Northern with all those specs. It's got the spark arresters and the beacon and the handrails and the elevated number boards and everything. So, really excited about it. It's gonna be a fun thing to see come out.
Eric, you need to have one crew figure inside and then an O-scale cat because of Chessie. Inside as well. That would really make it unique.
Okay. So here's a little side note. We're also doing a bay window caboose, and I designed the NW2, but Val over at Legacy Station designed the bay window caboose, and she actually added a little cat on each side down at the lower corner of the caboose.
Oh, really? That's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like
So
that.
if you look, when they finish the artwork, you'll see a little cat down in the corner. It's really cool. I'm just hoping we get all the order minimums in there so that we can get these things made. That's I'm not worried about the switcher, but the caboose, I think it's 100 minimum. So I'm hoping we'll get enough of those. But I'm kind of glad we're doing both now because it gives people people who can't afford the switcher can get the caboose, so it's should be good.
I think you'll be surprised, dude. I think you'll get enough orders.
I hope so. You never know. So we'll see.
Well, now that you're going to have cats in your caboose, I think I'm going to have to get one.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, that was a total surprise because I didn't see a caboose in the catalog that we could do other than the Vision caboose and the cabin car. And then so I said, okay, let's do the NW2. And then Ryan actually came back and said, hey, we've got a bay window caboose in one of the sets. We can do the bay window. And I was like, oh, that's the one I want to do is the bay window. So I got to have my cake and eat it too with this one.
Nice. All right, let's go ahead and move on to page 42 and 43. We have the GP20s, and I believe you said this on the stream, Ryan, that these are actually Rail King scale that you just basically retooled for Legacy. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. Scale shell. Of course, we've added a bunch of details to it, and are basically using our existing Jeep trucks, and I had to make a new frame anyway. But so we were able to use a lot of Legacy components in it. But when we saw the tooling for this, I said, yeah, it's Rail King, but this is a scale engine, and we don't have a scale GP20. There's no better way to add one into the lineup than this. Adding grab irons and separately applied detail parts versus tooling up an all new shell is pennies on the dollar. So we've got a few variations here in the catalog, and you'll be seeing some more things and more variations along this line in the not too distant future as well.
Will these have kinematic pilots? I'm guessing no, because of the minimum curve on these, but I thought somebody had asked them.
Yeah, no, it's great question. These will not have the kinematic pilots.
And then another question was, will KCT 2005 have the cab mounted headlight?
Yes, it has the cab. I think it has both in the real world. We're showing it with both here in the catalog. I'll double check that and see if we didn't butcher the catalog art on that. But we matched the details on this to the prototype unit as closely as possible.
I guess they're asking, will it have the cab mounted headlight? According to the person who wrote the question, I've only seen it with the nose mounted headlight with ditch lights. So I guess they're asking, is it going to have both, or is it just going to have the nose mounted one, which is, I guess, prototypical, but
it'll have the nose mounted headlight. We'll probably blank out the cab lights on it. And then we couldn't get ditch lights in on these. Sometimes with the pilot on these, it's a challenge sometimes to do ditch lights.
Gotcha.
It's another one where I having a hard time deciding which one to get. I love that KCT. I'm probably going to end up getting that one just because it looks so cool. But I'm thinking about the Penn Central too.
Yeah, these are pretty cool. All right, let's go ahead and move into one of my favorite parts of the catalog, the scale sets. And our first set is the Lehigh Valley Camelback set.
My question on this, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but those co-hoppers, they look like they're weathered, but is that just the rendering? Are they not?
Yeah, that's just the rendering. Sometimes when we shoot a photo of a model, you get a little bit of a reflection in the base paint or whatnot, and it carries through. And it's real hard to try and minimize that. Or it gets to the point where if you take some of that shading out, you completely lose the side post detail on the cars because they just become giant black blobs.
Okay. Right on.
I love the fact that this set comes with a bobber caboose. I just picked up one of the Strasbourg version that just got delivered, and they're super cool. So that's neat to see with the Camelback, just a really short train with the bobber caboose. It really completes it. So it's really cool because it's, again, talk about price point. This is an affordable set for someone with a small layout with minimum curves. So, it definitely brings people in to be able to go for a set with maybe the first time.
That boxcar is really cool. I think it's really different from what we're used to seeing in sets like this. So the fact that's included is super awesome.
Yeah, I was just looking at that boxcar. That is cool looking.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to throw just a little bit of color in, so it wasn't all an all black train. Just give a little splash of color here and there.
Alrighty, let's go ahead and move on to the next set. So that is the Union Railroad Hot Metal Train Legacy set. This is page 46 and 47.
I like this one. My first question is, those hot metal cars, are those the old MTH hot metal cars?
No, those are the old Lionel hot metal cars. That we've had for a long time.
Okay.
We do have a question on this one. So they ask, do you guys plan on making a separate 52-foot gondola for this set to go along with the separate sale hot metal car?
Good question. We did do a separate sale Union Railroad Gone maybe a year or two ago. It hasn't been too long since we did it, and I believe we did it in 2 road numbers. Possibly, I think we may have done a coil steel load in that, if I remember correctly. So there should be some of those out there on the market if you're looking to add another Gone to the train.
Yeah, like this is a pretty cool set. This is actually very, very different, I have to say. I don't think I've seen it. Has there been a hot metal car and gondola set before?
I don't recall one. I think it looks really cool. I mean, You've got 2 hot metal cars, and it looks like a pretty big set. You got 6 cars. I mean, so it looks great to me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the first time I've put all these pieces together in a set. I can't speak for all of Lionel history, but my memory's getting bad, but I'm pretty sure I haven't done this before.
You can't speak for the last 123 years?
Well, no, I definitely can't speak for all of it. And sometimes I shouldn't even speak for the last 10 that I was a part of. But
yeah, this is cool. I when you do unique sets like this, they're very eye-catching and definitely ones that people are very interested in for sure.
It's a great industrial set, and the Union's a neat railroad. I mean, if you're in anyone around the Pittsburgh area certainly knows of it, and they still use cabooses, and it's the epitome of an industrial, a small industrial. Well, not really a small, but an industrial connecting railroad and steel mill railroad, and it's right up a lot of people's alley who like to do heavy industry and that sort of thing.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to page 48 and 49, the Iron Hippo Legacy set. And no, this is not a circus train.
This one is this was the one that was really tempting for me. Especially because it comes with the Vision Line and 8 cabin cars. So you've got the freight sounds, dialogue, air whistle in the caboose, which is really neat for this set. One of the questions I have, Ryan, is the locomotive itself. Does this have the black or the Brunswick roof, or does it have the red roof and tender deck?
This does have the green roof and tender deck with the post-war details.
Okay.
And looking at photos of most of the I-1s and really most Pennsy steam in general, they used a very dark graphite typically on their locomotives when they were shopped. So we did get a deco shell as a test sample from the factory on this. Actually, I think it was just today or yesterday, one day earlier this week, because I noticed the green on some of our Pennsy engines has been shifting a little bit to be too green, and some of the smoke boxes I think have been a little bit too gray. So the new path on these is a very, very much a dark green and dark smoke box on these, which captures that Pennsy look pretty well when you look at old photos. It's kind of, a lot of them, it's hard to tell where the smoke box ends and the boiler jacketing begins. They sort of blend together. And I think these will get that effect really nicely.
Awesome. Will that be similar for the the Mikados from the last catalog.
Yes, that'll be for all the Pensy steam that's in production this year, and working with the factory that does the diesels as well to get those diesels back to a nearly black sort of green.
All right, let's continue on. Page 50 and 51. So we had East Coast, so let's go West Coast. At the top, we have the Rock Island Quad Cities Rocket Legacy set. This is pretty cool. I love that Independence color scheme for Rock Island.
Yeah, for you Chicago guys, I mean, this is another one of those trains that's right in your wheelhouse, right? Sort of the end of the passenger era on the Rock Island. Really, actually, a post-Amtrak train, because Amtrak was already up and running when these were still toiling away on the Rock Island. And the more I read about I started off wanting to do a small passenger train that you could do as a complete set. And that led me to the Rock and these, the last of the Rockets. And the more I read of them and the personal stories of travelers and crew on these trains, the more I fell in love with the idea of a set like this and a train like this. So it's one of those that I encourage people to go online and Google it and look up some of the stories and read a little bit about the train, and then you'll absolutely want to have one on your layout. But fun little stories about they didn't stop always at the station in the town because there were only 6 passengers on the train. They knew where everybody lived. They saw each other every day. So if they knew your house was 3 blocks down from the station, they'd stop 3 blocks down from the station and let you off there. There's another ship where they didn't get the commissary stocked in the snack car, so they stopped at a convenience store trackside somewhere along the way and went out and got sandwiches for everybody. Just kind of neat little stuff like that. That a very different side of passenger railroading. I mean, this is not the 20th Century Limited, but it's service and stories and good railroad history nonetheless.
Yeah, I am a huge sucker for passenger train sets. And now that you've mentioned that story, I'm a little bit more interested in this Quad Cities Rocket set. I do like the Independence, E89 along with the silver cars. I think that color variation just blends so well together too.
It's also really hard to get cars for this engine as well. So being able to have them in conjunction with as one big set is really nice. I know these engines have been made by MCH in the past, but good luck finding anything to pull them. So for anybody who missed out back then and wants to get it all in one go, this is a perfect opportunity.
Is that second car? Is that an observation car?
No, both coaches.
Okay.
Both coaches. The observations were long gone from these trains by this year. What you see here was a typical consist for the train: a single E unit and a pair of coaches. Snacks were served out of a cooler in the in one of the cars.
That's awesome. I like the story behind this one. All right, the Santa Fe. So on the bottom, the Santa Fe Fast Food Express Legacy set. So yeah, just kind of everything we kind of already went over, packed up into one kind of collection or set. I do have one question though. This one comes with a Santa Fe Vision caboose. If I want a Vision caboose, is this the only way to get a Santa Fe Vision caboose?
Right now, this is the only Santa Fe scheme that we're doing on that caboose. Yes.
Okay.
Down the road is separate sale. Of course, anything's possible. I'm not going to say no, especially with a road name like Santa Fe. But we figured, why not? We've got everything else in here. This was sort of a nod to the Vision Big Boy set in a slightly less insane package.
One you can kind of hide.
Yeah. This one will only get you half divorced.
All righty. Any other questions or comments on the sets on this page or pages?
No, I'm good. It looks great.
All right. We're in the kind of the final stretch here. We just have some scale cars to cover. All right. So we have some 50-foot flat cars with trailers, and we have some PS5 gondolas.
So I saw that Lionel Play World flat car with trailer. I thought that was great, so I'm going to order that one. And I hadn't thought about Lionel Play World in forever. I mean, it was around when I was a little kid, but not for too long. And I hadn't thought of it since then, and it was really cool to see this. And so then I was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that." So I was searching around on the web, and I ended up finding a Lionel Play World T-shirt that I got so that I can wear that in some of my videos. So yeah, I thought it was interesting. Lionel Play World, turn that frown upside down.
I've now got images of Eric doing videos in a child-size medium Lionel Play T-shirt, and I'm a little concerned. I'm not sure that's going to do much good for your viewing numbers, Eric.
Yeah, it might tank after that. I found the site that does retro T-shirts, and Play World was one of them, and so I was like, cool.
Yeah, that was a neat one. As I was looking for some different QFC cars to do, and of course on my search engine, Google automatically assumes I want Lionel everything. So if I type in 40-foot trailer, I'm going to see Lionel Play World 40-foot trailers, and that was a happy coincidence. I said, this would look kind of cool in a Lionel Lines flat car, and I figured a lot of people would be just like Eric said. Yeah, I remember going to Kitty City and Play World, and this is a neat little piece of Lionel history to bring back. And there was even a shot of a trailer very similar to this on a trailer train flat car. So at one point that I found, so pretty neat to see that and bring it out. It's fun doing some of the mix that they're not all railroad road names on the trailer and flat car, but mixing things up a little bit. Further back in the catalog, in some of the license page sections, you'll find a John Deere, a Budweiser Anheuser-Busch trailer. So there's a couple of those lurking further back in the catalog. Some other fun hot metal cars as well in some of those license pages.
All right. Now, any other questions or comments on the flat cars or gondolas?
I don't know. I've got a buddy of mine who's got a bunch of these in Pennsylvania road name. So I'm tempted to start collecting them. So it's cool to see them in the catalog now. Maybe I'll grab one or two.
The gondolas or the flat cars?
The flat cars.
Oh, cool.
All right. Let's go ahead and move to page 54 and 55. We have the grain door box cars.
I don't think I've seen these before.
Yeah, those grain door box cars are really popular when we were discussing it with our community. I think every other person was talking about how excited they were to see these. So I don't know too much about them, but they look really, really cool.
Yeah, this is only the second time we've run this variation of the PS1 boxcar. Pull this up as an option. I'm going to say it's been at least 7 years, which in Ryan Kunkle speak means anywhere from 2 catalogs ago to 30. Who knows anymore? But these were very popular, especially across the Midwest. The people we associate moving grain with covered hoppers now almost exclusively, but up until even in some places the early 1980s, the 40-foot boxcar was still a good workhorse for these seasonal grain movements. And it was just bulk loaded into the car, and there were wood or sometimes, combination of wood and I think cardboard or cardstock type of, corrugate doors put in behind the sliding doors to help hold in the loose load. And then you either close the outer doors or halfway close them for transit. When you got to the destination, those grain doors were usually just broken out with a hammer. And then you got in there with shovels and got to work and they were unloaded by hand. Much more labor intensive for loading and unloading than covered hoppers, but it gave you a car that you could use all year long when you didn't have a grain rush, and when you really needed every car you could to haul the grain, it was a nice stopgap for the railroads. So picked a variety of road names that we hadn't done, at least in this configuration before. And I think it's just a neat car to add into your fleet.
And there's a load inside too, correct? If you open the doors.
Yeah, there's a little blow molded vac form mold load that goes inside there and sits in behind the grain doors.
That's pretty cool. All right, let's continue on. Page 56 and 57, we have some N8 cabin cars.
Yep, these are new to us as well. Former MTH tooling. Same car we're using in the Vision cabin cars earlier we saw on the Iron Hippo set, just without the Vision features. So these will have the detailed interiors, interior lighting, the marker lights on these as well are illuminated. Nice little car. This was as modern as the Penske ever got for cabooses. After this was their last caboose design.
Yeah, I like these. I like the Penn Central one. I might get that one.
Yeah, it's cool to see the kind of through the years it goes, Penske, then the Penn Central, and then you've got the Conrail one also. Just it's nice to add some vibrant colors to the end of the train with the PC or the Conrail version.
Really like that Conrail. That's really sharp.
Yeah.
It was one of I only found a couple of Conrail N8s that had the safety first slogan and then the sort of Santa Fe style, the last 3 digits of the car number on the cupola ends. I thought that was a neat little touch. So we did one of those cars here for this one. Same with the Penn Central having the red P, just to have something a little extra splash of color on it makes a bit of a difference.
Yeah, so just to clarify, Ryan, I think I heard you say this. So the renderings have these facing forward. So there's illuminated lanterns there or lights on the back of the caboose.
Yes, you do have the illuminated markers on the back. You can just sort of make it out in the top right corner there behind the ladder. In most cases, they were yellow, and the Penske lamps only had a single lens out the back, a single red lens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these are pretty cool. Definitely East Coast, but pretty cool.
I think Illinois Central bought 1 or 2 of them used, so we'll get to that at some point in the run as well.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Alrighty, let's keep it moving here. Page 58 and 59. So we have GLA hoppers on 58, and we have scale rolling stock assorted 59.
I like that one lone milk car.
Milk car singular.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you're looking at the digital catalog, the GLA hoppers sort of represent the end of the new scale rolling stock for this catalog, at least in the scale section. There's some more stuff back with, as I said, the licensed pages and with Christmas. The digital catalog then has a few pages of some more scale and standard O rolling stock that we still have in stock, and wanted to put that in the catalog so people knew it was still available. If you're looking at the printed catalog, you'll go from the GLA hoppers to the standard O center beam flat cars. So again, with the digital, it's nice. We can put in some of the stuff that's still hanging on, or things also, we can put in track and power and all that stuff that you're used to seeing in every catalog. But for the print versions this year, we, again, to sort of maximize the usage of the paper and everything else, put in all the new product that's brand new for the catalog.
Ryan, I'm going back over here to the digital catalog. The rotary gondolas, the 2-packs, do they have end of train devices on them like some of them did?
If I'm remembering correctly, because I don't have that catalog in front of me, I'm actually working off the print copy today. But I believe those are the ones that we did where we did a 4-pack and then the 2-pack. And the 2-pack had the double rotary gondola, and the second car had the single rotary coupler and the EOT on the end. So if my memory is correct, and I've already qualified that several times tonight, if my memory is correct, then yes, they do have the EOT on those cars.
All right, let's go ahead and keep moving down. So page 60 and 61, we have some center beam flat cars.
These are some of our standard O cars. They're not to scale length. They have the right sort of overall look and feel. They're a little bit shorter than scale length, but they're very O31 curve friendly. A little less detailed than the things you've seen on all the preceding pages, but at a lower price point as well to help people who are just trying to build up a big long freight train. Not every car has to have separate grab irons and opening doors and things like that. Sometimes it's nice just to have a few simple freight cars that you can add in there and stretch your train.
Yeah, I've got a couple of these, and they're pretty nice. Like you said, they're not quite as, the length is a little shorter, but they're very nicely done.
All right, well, that pretty much wraps up the scale side of things. Again, folks, stay tuned for the next episode where we're going to go over the traditional Lion Chief and all of the holiday items like Halloween and Christmas. I'm actually really excited for Halloween. I think I said this before, man. There are folks at Lionel that love Halloween, and it absolutely shows for sure. So I can't wait to go over those items.
Yep, you'll have the experts on for the next section for sure. Megan and Corey are both our project managers for a variety of categories, but including the traditional worlds. And Megan is our queen of Halloween for sure in the building, and loves every bit of doing those things. And it's definitely shown in the quality of the product and the ideas and the originality that you've seen coming out of the last few catalogs from us at Lionel.
Awesome. All right, before we close out, I'm going to actually go around the room here, and I'm going to put people on the spot. So first thing is just kind of, give us your kind of like, kind of final reaction to this catalog, but also tell me the one thing that you are 100% absolutely going to order out of the catalog. And I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Eric.
Oh boy. Yeah, I really like the catalog. There's a lot of cool stuff in there. And the process of narrowing it down is proving to be very painstaking. But there's so much of it I like. I guess if there's one thing that I absolutely have to have, it's probably going to be the Dreyfus. But not to take away anything from anything else. I mean, I've got so much stuff on my list right now. I've got to go through this process of narrowing it down to get it within budget. But yeah, it's a lot of good stuff, and I like a lot of different paint schemes and stuff like that. So it's going to be quite a task to narrow it down. But yeah, it's a great catalog. I like it.
Gotcha. Chris, how about yourself?
Definitely the I1 is one that I'm going to 100% have to buy. The catalog itself, going through it, I did a review on my YouTube channel, just a quick page through it. It's absolutely fantastic. And I'm not saying that just because Ryan's on the podcast. I mean, there's so many things that people have wanted to see. I'm just absolutely elated that I don't collect New York Central stuff, because if I did, I'd be in really deep trouble, because the Dreyfus and all those passenger cars would be a must buy for me if I was a New York Central guy. And I only dabble in New York Central. So I'm pleased to say the I1 will be the one thing that I know I'm buying, and we'll just have to see what else happens. As I said, I might wait until something comes out, see it on the shelf, and have to buy it. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm looking at those New York Central E8s again. They got the Aberdeen E8s. You've got the Christmas ones in the back. Who knows? Time will tell. But the for sure purchase is the Penske I1.
Johnny, how about yourself?
Oh, this is such a good catalog. Too many things to choose from. Seeing the big boys return was awesome. I've always wanted to get one, and I wasn't seriously in the hobby at the time when they first got announced, so I'd get a second chance to get a Vision Line Big Boys. Awesome. That's my definite going to get one of those. I thought I was going to be safe with the Decapod, but of course Ryan lured me back in with them, so I'm definitely going to get 1630 as Chicagoan. I have to. I mean, that engine, I go to IRM all the time. I have a buddy who actually is part of the steam department. So it means a lot to us Chicago guys. So that's definitely a must get. The return of UP passenger cars was awesome. I'm really excited for the new cabooses. I'm curious on how they're going to sound, and most likely I'll be picking one of those up as well. But just overall, lots of cool items, too many things to choose from. So I will definitely have to watch my spending this year so I can grab the things that I want. But awesome catalog. How about you, Matt?
Fantastic catalog. Flipping through it when it came out, I was just like blown away by all of the great stuff in there. Especially, I think the 2900 class Santa Fe Northerns, especially that Blue Goose. Man. I have an MTH Blue Goose, but that 2900 one is kind of calling my name a little bit. I'm definitely getting a big boy. In fact, I already pre-ordered a big boy, so that's already done. But I think for me, one of those 2900s, I'm definitely 100% going to get for sure. And Ryan, one last question for you. What was your favorite thing to put in the catalog?
Well, I think there's no one favorite thing that I would say that I got to put into it. But you all have in the last last minute or two validated what I felt was my favorite thing coming out of this catalog. And that was the catalog itself. We really try as a team every time to strike a nice balance and give people a good variety to meet various interests, not just in the scale world that we've been talking about tonight, but just all across the catalog in general, between holiday items and different licensed properties, different price points, different curve requirements, different space requirements, different geographical regions and things in there. And I really do feel like this catalog is one of the best we've done in terms of providing a little something for everybody to get excited about. And just hearing you all go through and everybody has sort of a different engine or different piece that you've gravitated to and said, well, I love a lot of it, but this is the one for me that was my must have. And that makes me feel good because that tells me that we're all doing our jobs very well. And it's really nice to see a catalog come together and give people something positive to talk about. And I even heard a lot from people who said, there are things in here that I know aren't for me, but I know it's making a lot of people happy because you haven't done this in a while. And I've heard a lot of, I would have never even thought about wanting one of these, but I'm looking at it and it looks great. For me, I'm personally one of these people who's not a huge Christmas train person, but the Sleigh Bell Limited is calling my name. I think we're going to need a bigger track around the tree this year and figure out some way to keep the dog from destroying it. But that one is really calling to me. I need something to pull that crazy reindeer car we created around with anyway. So that may be coming home with me this year. But overall, I'm just proud of this catalog, and I'm proud of the work that everybody at the company put into making it successful, from the product planners to the graphics department for making everything come to life, our engineering team for putting up with all of our crazy ideas. They sort of now just start shaking when I walk into the engineering room. It's amusing. But what do you want to do now? Now what animal are you putting in a train? Oh my gosh. But yeah, it's a huge team effort to pull these catalogs together, and it feels like this one made a lot of people happy in a lot of different ways, and that's, in my mind, the sign of a true successful catalog. I'm sure that the sales team will judge it by dollars and cents as well, but I hope that passion translates through for the bean counters also. But yeah, I think this one was one of the better catalogs that we've done for just overall balance and cool stuff.
Congratulations to you and obviously the entire staff at Lionel for putting out a fantastic catalog. All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. And as always, we want to make sure that people can find the guests that come on this show. So Ryan, where can people find more information about Lionel on the internet?
Pretty much anywhere where Trainz are sold, Matt. We are all over the place. Go to Lionel.com or LionelStore.com for all of your product needs and related service sites. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on TikTok. We're on Instagram. And by we, I mean the younger, hipper parts of the staff that aren't old curmudgeon-y like me. But we're all over that. For me, honestly, the best way to reach me, folks, if you have questions, is shoot an email to us or give us a phone call through our call center, and they relay everything if they don't already have the answers in front of them. But our number is 1-800-4-LIONEL. Or you can send emails to us at talktous, all one word, talktous@lionel.com. And those comments do all get to myself or the appropriate project manager right away so that we can try and answer questions or take things into consideration for updates and future products.
I love that you guys have a TikTok. That's awesome. Eric, where can people find you on the internet?
What's the internet?
I don't know. Something created a while ago.
It's a series of tubes.
You can find me in the yellow pages. I've got, let's see, there's ericstrainz.com. That'll take you to everything else, but there's Eric's Trainz YouTube. There's Instagram. There is a TikTok that I'm slowly starting to get used to. And then there's Twitter and Facebook. So pretty much everywhere under Eric's Trainz.
Chris, how about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm on YouTube under Chris's Trainz and Things, and then also on Instagram, Chris Trainz and Things on Instagram as well.
Awesome. And Johnny, where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube at Audamus. That's AUDAMUS. For once, I actually have a project in the works. I know it's been over a year, but I am midway through editing and producing a new video, highest budget of quality, a lot of funny gags. I've actually had Matt R do some QA and some jokes and gags for me, and he seemed to really enjoy it. So I hope you guys will check it out when it comes out in hopefully about a week or two. So keep an eye out. I will be promoting it on all my socials. Speaking of my socials, you can find me at Audamus_Trainz on Instagram and Facebook at the same name. Last but not least, you can find me in the Matt and Matt Uska podcast Discord. I will usually be scrolling through chats, chatting with you guys in there, or I'll be in the voice call making a fool of myself. So come on down. It's lots of fun.
And you can find me on YouTube at WC Model Railroad. I'm on Facebook as WC Model Railroad and on Instagram as, you guessed it, WC Model Railroad. So I want to thank all of the guests for coming on the show tonight. It was an absolute blast. It is always fun to go through the catalog and just talk about all these new awesome trains that are coming out. And I'm looking forward to our next episode where we'll go ahead and tackle the traditional Lion Chief and the holiday items. And of course, the biggest thanks goes out to all of our listeners in our podcast world there. Thank you for tuning in to us, for downloading our podcast, and of course, for leaving us feedback. So with that said, gentlemen, again, thank you for coming on the podcast tonight. And I want to wish you all a wonderful, wonderful week.
Take care, everyone.
Had a lot of fun. Thanks.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you, guys.